So now we're going to focus on the difference between a capital expenditure and an ordinary repair or slash maintenance. And so we just finished talking about capitalized costs. And by definition, we said those capitalized costs were upfront costs that you had to pay originally to get that particular asset to its intended purpose. So what goes on after it's at its intended purpose? This is where this particular section comes into play. After the particular plant asset is at its intended purpose, you will still have various costs. And of those various costs, they're going to either be a capital expenditure or an ordinary repair slash maintenance. And depending on how do they meet the classification of the two, is going to dictate how do you properly record it and how does it affect the actual asset. So let's talk about capital expenditures. And capital expenditures, as you can see, the key word in there is capital, and we already had capital going on with the capitalized costs. So it's almost the same idea, but a capital expenditure occurs after the asset is already in its intended purpose or intended use. And so by definition, in order to meet the criteria of becoming a capital expenditure, it has to do one of two things. It has to increase the useful life of the asset, or increase the efficiency of the asset. Okay? And so it has to meet one or two of those things. Increase the useful life or increase the efficiency of the asset. And if it does one of those two things, then it's considered to be a capital expenditure. How do we treat capital expenditures? We include them in the cost of the asset. We include them in the cost of the asset, which basically means, again, that we're going to what? Debit the asset. We're going to directly debit the asset for that amount. Okay? So, let's consider a truck. Let's say we bought the truck and now the truck is at its intended purpose, right? Well, let's say that we decide to change the transmission. We decide to change the type of transmission. We go in there and we alter the transmission to make it be able to pull more things, okay? So we're kind of refabricating the transmission so that it'll be able to pull more things, okay? Would that be considered a capital expenditure? Well, ask yourself. Did it increase the useful life because we changed that transmission? Technically not. So it wouldn't meet it for that particular aspect. But would it increase the efficiency of that truck? Well, in terms of being efficient, the truck, after the transmission is modified, should be able to pull more things. So yes, it is becoming more efficient. So yes, it has become a better truck. So yes, it would meet the criteria of a capital expenditure. So let's say that that amount that we paid to get that done may have cost us, I don't know, $10. Well, how will we record that? We have to debit the asset. So we would debit the truck for the $10 and credit the cash. It would increase the cost of the truck. Now, what if we then had an oil change, right? What if we had to do an oil change or, I don't know, transmission fluid change or something after? Would that be considered a capital expenditure? Well, let's say we did the oil change. Does the oil change increase the useful life? Most of you guys, some of you guys will say, yeah, we changed the oil change, we increased the useful life. And even if we took the example for changing the transmission, most of you guys may say, well, yeah, it's going to become more efficient because we're changing the transmission. But think about it, guys. When you change the oil change, is it really increasing the useful life? Nah. You have to change the oil change because if you don't change the oil change, you're going to decrease the useful life. So this is something that has to be done. Just like changing the transmission fluids. These are things that have to be done. They won't increase the efficiency or the useful life of the asset. They will prolong it in the sense of what its normal use is. So these would not meet the capital expenditure requirements. So we couldn't debit the asset for them. What those are examples are ordinary repairs. Those are repairs or maintenance. And so how will we record that? We would debit maintenance expense, repairs expense, and credit cash. And so in the difference between a capital expenditure and a maintenance or repair is that for recording purposes, capital expenditures, you will always debit that asset. But if it's not a capital expenditure, then it's just ordinary maintenance or ordinary repairs. You have to debit an expense. Maintenance expense, repairs expense.